So Disney, Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Marvel, anyone who works under Disney, anyone who works for Disney was just exposed by mainstream media once again, and it has been kind of a recurring theme that mainstream media is starting to turn on Disney a little bit. They're starting to finally call out all of the bad things that Disney does, all of the faults that Disney has, and we all know that Disney does a lot of shady stuff. If you watch my channel for any time at all, you know that I call this stuff out over and over again. It seems like every single week Disney is being exposed for doing some shady stuff, but it's never by the mainstream media. It's very rarely by the mainstream media, I should say. Before the Gina Carano firing, the last thing that I could really remember Disney being called out for was the John Boyega thing on the Force Awakens poster. Whenever they shrunk him down to an ant when they went to China to advertise the Force Awakens. That's really the last time that I could think of that the mainstream media called out Disney. People like Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and even major news stations wrote articles about it, talked about it in videos, even talked about it on the news channels. But other than that, Disney really hasn't been called out much by the mainstream media, even though they do so much bad stuff in broad daylight. They do it right there for everyone to see. It's just people don't want to look that hard because the public perception of Disney is this pure company, this very family-friendly company that would never do anything wrong. You go to Disney World and it's all perfect there. It's the happiest place on earth. All this pure energy is going around, but behind the scenes, Disney is a bad company that does very bad things. And it's a horrible realization to come to for someone like me who always thought Disney was this extremely pure company, who my entire life I loved going to Disney World. I love Disney products. I love Disney shows. I love Disney movies. But in the last year or so, I've just realized that Disney is just such a bad company that does make good media. I won't lie. I do like a lot of their movies. I do like a lot of their shows. I love Star Wars, obviously. I love Marvel, but I can't deny the fact that they are bad people that do very bad things in order to make money. But the mainstream media outlets are finally starting to call them out. They're finally becoming not too scared to call them out about that stuff. And for some reason, yesterday, Variety went extremely hard at Disney, exposing the Disney management as a whole, exposing Marvel, and exposing a lot more within Disney as well. Like I said, this article is from Variety, and it says Disney's New World Order leads to confusion and bruised egos. With the newly minted CEO Bob Chapek asserting more authority as the longtime leader he replaced, prepares to surrender his executive chairman role. If you don't know, Bob Iger still behind the scenes does run a lot of stuff. Even though he's no longer the CEO, he's still the executive chairman, and he's kind of like acting as the CEO without having to deal with a lot of the headaches. But Bob Iger is leaving Disney officially at the end of this year, and Bob Chapek will be in full control of Disney, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. But apparently the two men's once warm relationship has grown strained. According to 4 insiders, this comes as Chapek has overseen a 2020 reorganization that centralized the media company's content distribution and ad sales. At the corporate level, Iger has moved much more into the background than he was a few months ago. In a sign of the leadership transfer taking place, Chapek has not only joined Iger in creative meetings, but actually convened some this spring with top creative teams in television under Peter Rice and Dana Walden. So pretty much what Variety is saying here, what their insiders are saying about Disney, is that they're falling apart without Bob Iger in charge. Apparently Bob Chapek just cannot handle being the CEO of Disney without Bob Iger being there to help him. According to one Disney executive who asked not to be identified, things are radically different than they were 6 months ago. The insider noted that the senior leaders have tried to insulate the creative teams from the upheaval. But here's where it gets very interesting. There's a lot of business talk within this, but trust me, it does pay off. Trust me, this is pretty crazy changes that are happening. And it seems like Disney is beginning to struggle. It seems like they will struggle greatly whenever Bob Iger leaves, because they're already struggling with Bob Chapek. They're already struggling without Bob Iger being the CEO. And I mean, Bob Iger was a great CEO, regardless if you like Disney content, regardless if you like what Disney did with Star Wars. Bob Iger was a great CEO. He's a great person to have around in a position of power for a company. He's just a money machine. The guy knows how to make money. The guy knows how to run a business. And he is so good at talking in front of crowds. He's so good at making the stockholders, the shareholders, he's so good at making them excited. And he's so good at making people want to invest more and more in Disney. He's just a great person to have around in a position of power. So it's normal when you lose someone like Bob Iger for a company to struggle a little bit, for there to be a little bit of turmoil, because it's just a scary thing to go through. But it seems like it might be more than that. It seems like Bob Chapek may just not be fit to run Disney. Disney's reorganization of its media and entertainment business into 3 distinct content creation groups, studios, general entertainment, and sports, has caused some consternation for some senior managers as well as those doing business with the company. The reorganization was aimed at better positioning Disney for a future that would be determined by its success in streaming, was to have people work more harmoniously across mediums, from television to film to Disney+. The result has left people deeply confused about how to navigate the new order. Hollywood dealmakers noted that the new structure at Disney is Byzantine and more convoluted than necessary, adding an extra managerial layer into the process of getting projects made. This is something that people have complained about since the beginning of time, since these big studios started buying these properties. There's too much corporate interference with the creation of these projects. And according to this article, they're adding another layer of corporate overlords. So overseeing these creative projects, it can only make things worse. It can only make the actual content even worse. In the restructuring, top division leads have lost oversight of P&L, which has been a tough pill to swallow for the likes of FX chief John Landgraf and Peter Rice, the chairman of Disney General Entertainment Content, who has grown frustrated that some of his responsibilities have been taken away. That control was an integral part of running their respective business units, given that those who delivered the best profit/loss numbers to their corporate chief often had the most authority and swagger on the lot. Now the creative side doesn't have those bragging rights, which means they have to spend money on content while the distribution side rakes in the revenue and the glory. Like I said, this is exactly what people have been complaining about forever, and it seems like Disney is taking it to another level. It's always bad for corporate people to get in the way of creativity, and Disney is just doing more and more of that as time goes on. And it seems like with Bob Chapek taking over, it's not going to get any better. In fact, it's going to get a lot worse according to this article, according to these insiders, which is very bad news for everything under Disney, everything that's being created by Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, anything that's being created by Disney. This is bad news for those projects because anytime you take creatives out of positions of power, the creativity and the quality of these projects are just going to go down the drain. It is expected that Walt Disney Studios Chief Creative Officer Alan Horn will also leave. Horn's departure could be destabilizing as he has been the creative guiding force at the studio for the past 9 years. I won't go into the history of Alan Horn, but just know that he is a GOAT. And like I said before, you don't have to like the Disney content, but you have to recognize how much money Alan Horn has made for Disney. It's an absurd amount of money. And you should really look into Alan Horn's history and his history with Disney because it's pretty crazy, it's pretty wild. He's a GOAT. But here is another article that Variety wrote on the same day about Disney's management. This time they kind of niched it down to the Marvel Studio side of the Disney management, but they're criticizing once again how Marvel runs their shows. I don't know what Variety's deal was with Disney yesterday, but I love that they're calling them out on their poor management, and I hope they inspire even more people to do the same. But let's get into this article as well. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige stood on the stage at the D23 Expo in Anaheim in 2019 to present Marvel's slate of television series for Disney+. Before inviting stars Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan onto the stage with him, Feige introduced the show's creative core team. I would love for you to meet our head writer Malcolm Spellman and our director Carrie Scoglin. It was a subtle moment easy to miss amid the spotlights and propulsive music, but Feige's use of the title head writer for Spellman rather than showrunner or creator wasn't just a cosmetic affectation. It represents a real and meaningful difference in how Marvel Studios is approaching the leadership structure that TV has traditionally used, in which one or occasionally two writer executive producers quite literally run the show. And we saw that with the WandaVision. The person that wrote WandaVision, the person that directed WandaVision didn't even know who Mephisto was. Everyone watching those trailers, everyone seeing those episodes, seeing the little teasers, seeing the little hints throughout the episodes, really thought that Mephisto was coming or that someone like Mephisto was coming. Someone inside baseball for Marvel would show up in the show, and the people that created WandaVision didn't even know who Mephisto was. They aren't even really that deep into comic book lore. They don't even know that much about Wanda. They don't know that much about Scarlet Witch, and that is a problem, and that's what Variety is talking about in this article. That's a huge problem. I understand using this model when you're making one film a year, have Kevin Feige oversee everything that's happening on the movies, but when you're putting out multiple films and multiple shows in the same year, Kevin Feige cannot oversee every single thing that's happening on these projects. It's just not possible. The guy is busy. He doesn't have time to oversee all of that stuff. So you have to have a showrunner for these shows. You just have to have a showrunner that understands what's happening. You have to have a mini Kevin Feige running these shows, someone who's an actual fan of the comics, someone who understands the source material, someone who understands these characters. It's just a must, and thank God that Star Wars is doing that with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and even with Deborah Chow for the Kenobi series. I'm glad they're using that model, the traditional model, but I'm just so glad that mainstream media is finally starting to call out Disney. They're finally starting to call out the poor management that is happening at Disney, and hopefully people like Variety, people like Hollywood Reporter start digging deeper and deeper in their reports and start talking about the bad stuff that Disney does outside of their content creation. But let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. What do you think about mainstream media calling out Disney once again? Do you think this is going to happen more in the future? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both of those links will be in the description. But thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.